Okay, so today's lesson, it's our last lesson in our cells and systems unit, and we're looking at topic 7, which is body systems and your health. So basically we'll be looking at some disorders that can happen to the body systems. All right, so first we'll talk about the circulatory system. So a healthy circulatory system. So what's happening is right now, disorders of the circulatory system, they are the leading cause of death in North America. So, for example, high blood pressure, which is also called hypertension. This affects the circulation of the blood, and it can lead to heart attacks. So heart attacks will cause damage to the heart muscle, and it can also cause strokes, and that's when there's brain damage. So basically, blood is not being able to get to the brain or to the heart effectively, and therefore there's damage being done to the cells. Okay, known as the silent killer because people with hypertension may not feel ill. Right, so that again is high blood pressure. There's a device called a sphygmomanometer, spelled out right here. That's a device that is used to measure blood pressure. So basically an inflatable cuff is wrapped around the arm, and then air is pumped into the cuff, squeezing it against the artery in the arm and therefore restricting blood flow. And then air is slowly let out of the cuff so that the blood pressure matches the pressure in the cuff, and then the blood is slowly being forced its way back through the artery. And then while that's happening, a doctor is listening using this stethoscope, listening to the sound of the blood. All right, continuing with blood pressure. Blood pressure can indicate several things. So firstly, the volume of blood. So if a person has lost, for example, during an injury or something, and they've lost a lot of blood, their blood pressure will be very low. Blood pressure can also indicate heart rate. So a fast beating heart will push blood rapidly through arteries, building up blood pressure. Artery size. Large open arteries conduct larger volumes of blood. So therefore, people that have large open arteries will have lower blood pressure. Smaller, narrow, or partly clogged arteries will produce high blood pressure. Blood pressure can also indicate artery elasticity. So flexible arteries can easily expand, letting more blood through. And a loss of elasticity will result in hardening of arteries. So again, it'll produce higher blood pressure. And then blood viscosity. We talked about viscosity in the last unit. Viscosity, the thickness or thinness of fluids. So blood viscosity, thick fluids will flow less easily than thin fluids. So this measures the balance between red blood cells and the plasma. So some disorders of the circulatory system, smoking, high levels of cholesterol, high blood pressure, lack of exercise can put people at a greater risk of disorders in the circulatory system. Cigarettes we'll talk about. So in cigarettes, there is a substance called nicotine, and that causes blood vessels to constrict. That's going to increase heart rate and raise blood pressure. Also, nicotine is very addictive. Carbon monoxide is also produced. It competes with oxygen in the lungs, so therefore reducing the blood's ability to carry oxygen to the cells. And then there's tar. It's a dark, sticky substance that forms as a cigarette burns. It'll settle on the surface of all the respiratory system organs. All right. Continuing with disorders of the circulatory system. So poor diet, that's what it says there. So a high salt diet can raise blood pressure. That'll put a greater strain on the heart. If you're eating a diet high in fat, such as cholesterol, that will also build up in the arteries. And then what happens is those arteries begin to narrow, they become blocked. Tiny tears in the walls can cause blood clots that can travel then to the brain, it can travel to the heart, causing a heart attack or a stroke. Blood flow through arteries can become very limited, or it might completely stop, and that can cause a heart attack. So the term atherosclerosis is the buildup of cholesterol in the arteries. So if you look at a cross section of this artery, this is a healthy artery, right? It shows a clear, this is the pathway here, it's a clear, wide open pathway, so blood can pass through that easily. Here we have an artery that's been narrowed by a buildup of fatty deposits. So look how tiny this opening is, right? All of this here is all of the plaque that's formed from a diet high in fat and cholesterol, right? So high blood pressure because the blood has to try to flow through this tiny opening. All right, so we'll watch a quick video here. I'm going to pause. Okay, so next we are looking at the digestive system. So nutrients, these are the substances that provide energy and materials for cell development, growth, and repair. Other substances in foods can cause poor health. So like we talked about, like saturated fats, too much salts and sugars and so on. So looking at this chart, food provides nutrients in the form of carbohydrates, fats, proteins, vitamins, minerals, and water. And those provide energy and materials which are used for growth, development, and repair. All right, so carbohydrates, such as starch and sugars, they provide the main source of energy found in fruits, grains, beans. They're also very high in fiber. Fiber is important. It keeps our intestines clean and prevents like constipation. Fats are important. They provide energy. They're important for cushioning our vital organs from shock. They also play a role in hormones and lots of other things as well. Proteins are essential for growth and repair of body tissues. They're found in meat, fish, eggs, legumes. Minerals and vitamins are important in just having healthy body systems. And then water is very important. As you know, most of our body is made of water. All right, so disorders in the digestive system. So like I said, fiber is very important. So when there's little fiber in your diet, it takes the colon, the large intestine, a longer time to process waste material, which is the feces. So that can start to irritate the colon wall. It can lead to colon cancer, constipation, and so on. So fiber is very, very important in the diet. Ulcers, these occur when the unprotected wall of your stomach or small intestine start to get damaged from the stomach acid. So recall that our stomach is protected by a mucus layer. All right, so if the mucus layer is not there or it's not thick enough, then the stomach acid can start to eat away at your stomach wall. Or if the acid is getting into the small intestine, it's going to start eating away at the small intestine. All right, it used to be believed that ulcers were caused by stress, but it is actually caused by a bacterial cell called Helicobacter pylori or H. pylori. Okay, so this bacteria is not being killed by the stomach acids, and it starts to break down the mucus layer in the stomach wall. So usually, just by taking antibiotics will cure the ulcer. All right, so we'll pause here and just watch a quick video. Next, we are looking at disorders of the respiratory system. So air pollution, poor air quality, smoking, secondhand smoke can lead to disorders of the respiratory system. So cilia, these were the small hair-like projections that line the respiratory system. They remove airborne particles, but things like cigarette smoke and pollutants can irritate the lining, causing these mucus-producing cells to produce more mucus. So at first it'll cause coughing to remove that excess mucus, but over time the irritated lining becomes more and more inflamed, leading to bronchitis. All right, bronchitis which is inflammation of the bronchi. So the respiratory airways, they're going to narrow, they can become blocked, and that can lead to a further condition called emphysema. Lung cancer is another disorder of the respiratory system. So smoking, it is the leading cause of lung cancer. So basically, with cancer, the cells begin to grow out of control, and then large clusters of these uncontrolled cells, they outcompete the healthy cells for nutrients. And then a tumor can start to form in the lungs. This tumor, it will take up space in the lungs, and it's going to make it harder and harder to breathe. The healthy cells are killed, but the cancer cells, they continue to divide. And then abnormal cancer cells, they can spread to other parts of the body and start damaging other parts of the body as well. All right, we have a video here on how do cigarettes affect the body.